Okay. How I became an AI engineer for 18 months. So I think, firstly, I'll clarify what I mean by AI engineer, because, I think everyone has their own definition for what an AI engineer could be. So for me, an AI engineer is a software engineer who specializes in building AI products. So for me, what I do on a daily basis is I am a software engineer who codes mainly full stack applications, but I do it with a focus on driving and productionizing AI. So I'll get into a couple of more examples when I talk about what I'm working on specifically, but that's my definition for what an AI engineer is. Cool, let's get right into it. Yeah. So I want to spend a bit of time focusing on, I can tell you what you should do. You should learn this technology. You should meet that person. You should do this specific thing. I can tell you, the specific things that I did to get into the workplace. But if there's one thing which I could communicate today, it would be it's right here, the power of dedicating pure focused energy towards a single subject for several hours every day for years. And I've got a picture of a person there. I think everyone knows who that person is. Now, this guy, Usain Bolt, does anyone know how long the 100-meter race typically lasts in the Olympics? 10 seconds? Yeah, 10 seconds. So Usain, he usually runs a sub 10 second. He usually runs I think 9 point something seconds, something like that. And if you think about it, the Olympics happens every 4 years, right? So he trains 4 years of relentless running under the sun, blazing heat, tearing away at his muscles. I mean, obviously he doesn't do it anymore all the time, but when he was in his prime, he's in the blazing sun, just tearing away at his muscles, running hundreds and hundreds of kilometers for 9 seconds. At the end of 4 years, 4 years of hard work, just for 9 seconds. And you might someone if an alien came and visited us and said, and saw Usain Bolt, who was preparing 4 years for just these 9 seconds, 9 seconds of time, you would probably think that guy is insane. But why do people celebrate Usain Bolt so much? Why is he such a highly regarded figure? Because he puts so much effort. He does, no one sees the 4 years of hard work he puts in. Everyone sees the 9 seconds of fame. But it's because he put in the 4 years of hard work, and he gets the glory, and that's the reward. Those 9 seconds, at the end of those 9 seconds, he gets the glory because he put in all of that hard work. And I've got a saying here which I like to often repeat, which is luck. The definition of luck is when preparation meets opportunity. And at the race, I don't know if you guys have watched any races, but the split-second difference matters a lot, right? Usain Bolt getting a 9.69 versus the other guy getting a 9.68. Usain Bolt still comes out on top. That is definitively, he is first. And you might think Usain Bolt just got lucky. It was just 1 millisecond, right? It could have been anyone's game. But I think that all of those 4 years of hard work and him doing more than his competitors, that compounds into that single millisecond. And that, outsiders might say that that's lucky, but I think that that's just pure preparation. And when something good happens to someone, and when someone finds a great opportunity, it doesn't matter if the opportunity is wasted if that person is not prepared to make full use of the opportunity. So when you see that someone is successful and you say, oh, they were just lucky, it happened to them, they were at the right place at the right time. That's true, but because that opportunity came to them and they were prepared to take full advantage of it. It wasn't that they just happened to stumble upon the right person. Because people, it's actually crazy how many times in our life we stumble across someone or something which could dramatically change our life, but we're just not ready to take that next step. And that's what I think is so important. And the power of dedicating pure focused energy, like this is it's like sort of a cliche thing to say. It's like, every typical motivational speaker says, focus, dedication, hard work, these are the secrets to success. But I think like it's so underrated, the power of dedicating one's time to just one single thing, because everyone wants to take the easy path. No one wants to specialize, put in hours and hours of hard work into just mastering one thing. So like, I could tell you, you should do that, do this, but if there's one thing I want to communicate throughout this talk, it's that no matter which field you choose, no matter what kind of skills you want to learn, aim for excellence. When you do something, do it to the fullest. And whatever you choose to do, whether it be like software engineering or really any skill, if you want to be great in that skill, if you want to be highly regarded, then put in the work which rewards excellence. Do it so you become excellent in that. Don't do it so you can become average. Don't be one of the millions. Don't just be one of the millions. Be one in million. Be the great. Be excellent at something. And I think that's really important to me. And we'll get through. I'll talk a bit about it more. But for now, let's just. I'll talk a bit more about my journey, particularly, just to give you guys some context. So if we can go to the next slide, please. Thank you. Okay. So this is my journey, just to give you guys a bit of context. So I wrote my first line of code around 2020, I think 2021, and my brother is right there, and he also started coding at the same time as me. Now he's 2 years younger than me, and he's sort of like at the same level as me, so that's why I think, honestly, he is a bit better than me in that sense, because he's doing the same kind of things I was doing at my age, but he's like 2 years younger than me as well, which is why, shout out to my brother. Yeah. So we started both coding at the same time, and we wrote our first line of code in Python. So just to give you a bit of context, we got into coding through our dad. So he kind of introduced us to this whole world of programming, and from there we applied to a course, an online course on Udemy. I think it was like $20. I still remember the course name. It was the Complete Python Programming Bootcamp by Derek Banaz, and we did that course. We learned Python, so that was sort of our introduction to programming. And then after that, our decision was we wanted to focus on building something tangible, something we could show people, and something we could present, and that led us to developing Android apps. So around, I think it was 2021. Yeah, 2021, 2022, I developed a Android app using Kotlin, and Kotlin being sort of like I would say like an easier version of Java, which you can also use to build Android apps. So if you go to the next slide, this was the app I built. Now, I wanted to include like a link of the app on the Play Store because I did publish it to the Play Store. But if you try and find it now, it's called Number Predictor. You can't find it. And I think the reason for that is because it got like 0 downloads. I think that's the reason you can't find it. Like, the link was working 3 years ago. You could see it on the App Store, but now it's not working. And I think it's because no one's using it. I don't even have it on my own phone because I've got an iPhone now. So this was the app I built. It was actually inspired by my brother's friend. I still remember the paper cards he showed me, and I decided, why not make it into an app. So I built this app, and obviously it got like a billion downloads, a billion views as well. But so like this was the app which I built, and I downloaded it. I published it to the App Store. I wouldn't say my goal was to build something incredible. It was more just to publish something, just to get something out there, and it was very rewarding for me as well to build something tangible which other people could use. So that was mobile app development, and back then it was I was very price conscious as well because I didn't want to spend my parents' money in any extravagant kind of way. So I didn't develop for iOS because it was like a $99 per year you have to sign up to develop iOS apps. you need to pay $99 a month to build iOS apps. Well, no, per year to build iOS apps.
Just development, not even to like have a Mac OS and use Swift UI.
Nah, you like just to publish something on the App Store, you need to pay $99 a year. Well, I guess in a sense, like that's how they keep the quality good, because only serious people will publish on the App Store. But no, I published on the Android store. It didn't get a lot of traction, but that's all right. The goal was just to get something out there. So that was Android app development, learning Kotlin, and then after that, you can go to the next slide. Yep. So after that, it was we got into building websites, and this was sort of using React, JavaScript, that sort of technology. And this was like, I would say this was sort of a turning point in a way, because now it's like a whole different world. You study Python, it's more about scripting, study mobile development, it's about building responsive mobile apps. Study web development, and suddenly you understand how all of these applications work. And I think, again, going back to going deep into something, when I learned web apps, over the course of years, you learn how the internet works itself, how HTTP works, all of these deep concepts, and the more deep you understand it, and the depth of knowledge that you understand, I think it's a lot beneficial to you, because you understand how these technologies work, you can reason about them better. So we learned how to build web apps, we did a couple of projects on like GitHub and stuff, but yeah, this was more about just learning how to build on the web. And after that was our dive into AI. So this is sort of the interesting stuff. Well, I wouldn't say it was interesting in today's sense, because it was more around machine learning and deep learning. So like today, the hype is all around generative AI, right? Everyone wants to build an LLM app or something like that. But this was more traditional. I think like 2022, ChatGPT was released November 2022, I believe. And this was sort of even before that. So it wasn't about generative AI, definitely. It was more about traditional machine learning and deep learning. So training models, like experimenting, classifiers, regressions, all that sort of stuff. And some of the technologies we learned were TensorFlow, PyTorch, and scikit-learn. Those are just some tools and frameworks used to train AI models. And like when I say learn, I'm going to talk about this more, but what was the source of our learning? Obviously, we were like in school, so how did we kind of learn how to build with these technologies? And I think coding is such an interesting industry, because you can learn, like the resources are so easily available and accessible. You go onto YouTube, there's a 10-hour Python course. You go onto Udemy, you can buy like professional high quality AI machine learning course for like $15 on a quick sale. Like, because I guess the benefits of going to uni is like about it's not only about learning, it's about like networking, meeting people, and experimenting. But I think for learning core skills, the internet is your playground. YouTube, it has the best courses. YouTube is my best teacher, and learning these technologies, it's really quite easy to just go on and find really high quality resources to learn these types of things. And obviously looking through documentation is a very good skill. Look through documentation, read the documentation, understand how the technology works. I think that's the approach we took. So this was not generative AI. This is more about experimenting with machine learning models, training deep learning models as well. It's like this. It is its own field. That is so hard to say. It is its own field, and you go into each of these like mobile apps, web apps, machine learning. They're so different, but I think it's so beneficial to explore a lot. Like, I think it's very easy to sort of pigeonhole yourself into one single industry, or one single field, or one single technology stack. But I think there's such a benefit in understanding and exploring different technologies. So, build a web app one day, build a mobile app the next day, build a machine learning model the next. Find your interest. Find what drives you to build, to create. And that will, like, you'll naturally find, because when you work on something you love, it becomes very easy to work on that. So if you explore, you're able to find, what exact technology excites you to create. Which is why I think it's very helpful to sort of explore your options. So yeah, 2023, 2022, I was diving into AI, machine learning, deep learning, and after that, that was the end of my year 10. And throughout that year, I sort of was contemplating what I wanted to do in the future. Do I want to go to uni? I guess the options were: do I go to uni? Do I do year 11, year 12, and do 4 years bachelor's? I think that's 4 years bachelor's. 4 years bachelor's, and then go into the industry, or with the skills I already have, just try my luck, see if I can get a job. And it was sort of like risky, but I didn't really see it as a stumbling, as like an obstacle for me doing it. Because if you think about it, like, what's the worst thing that could happen? You drop out, it doesn't work out, you go back to school, or you find another way. Because like people, and what I've found is people are so willing to help young people, especially. So if you go out and you learn how to sell your story, and I'll get more into that a bit later, but if you get out and you learn, there's no risk in doing it young. The risk only happens when you're older. When you're much older, it's a lot harder because you've got family, you've got kids, you can't take as much risk. But I think taking risks when you're young, especially the younger you do it, the more beneficial, the more easy it is to do it. So 2023 ends, and I dropped out. So I finished year 10, and sort of like December-ish, January, I was just honestly spam applying. Like just applying. I built my resume, I learned how to create a resume, learned how to sell myself a bit more. And I applied to tons of jobs, and I have a folder where I have all of my cover letters and resumes for like all of the different companies I applied to. And all of them didn't work out in the end, but I applied to like so many jobs. It was actually crazy. If we go to the next slide. So I did a bit of in-person outreach at that time as well. So I, like my dad, he's a very traditional sort of guy. So he recommended that I go to like the actual offices of where I applied to. So if I applied to, and the second one over there, it's the Google Melbourne office. And this one I didn't apply to, there was no job posting, but I went to the office under my dad's suggestion because, back in his day, he was handing out resumes himself. He was doing that hustle, that kind of grind. And he sort of transferred that into me. At the time, I would say I was like, like everything's happening online, I'm applying online, and that should be fine. So I didn't really understand the benefit of going in person. But in retrospect, I thank my dad for kind of pushing me to go outside and go to the offices, even though I didn't apply, go to the offices and meet people in person. Because it's like 99% of people don't want to do that, right? 99% of people just want to apply online and hands off. Let the universe do its thing, right? But the 1% of people who actually put in the work to go and meet people, to go and put themselves out there. And I wouldn't say I'm like, at that time especially, I was not like so extroverted. I was more of like a introverted kind of person. But I am so thankful that I had this experience so that I now am it's a lot easier for me to communicate with people and sell myself in a way. Which is, so this was like a random office I went to. This one I did apply to, I remember the application. And I actually went with my brother for these trips. Like we went to the city, that was the Google office, that was, I think it was like Blue Rock or something. I went to the Amazon office as well. The funny thing about the Google office is I went there and I tried to talk to someone, but it turns out that that's actually a sales office. It's not a software engineering office. Like there's only sales people there. And I went to the guy and he was like, yeah, that's great and all, but this is not a programming hub. Their Google's programming hub is actually in Sydney, and I found that out the hard way and in an embarrassing way. It was fine though. I'm glad I did it. I'm glad I now know that Sydney is a better place to work. But I am honestly so grateful that I did that. Now this was not sort of going to networking events, it was just going to offices directly. This is a list of recruitment agencies. So you know how like companies will hire recruitment agencies to hire on their behalf. I wrote down a list of 40, or maybe 50. I think it was 50 recruitment agencies. I wrote down their name, their phone number, and I contacted each and every one of them to try and just put myself out there. And I wasn't expecting anything. I was just more putting myself out there and trying my best. So I contacted a bunch of them, got a bunch of emails, and I was doing all of these things. I was applying to tons and tons of software engineering jobs online. I was writing down these lists, I was contacting people, but it wasn't working for some reason. Like December, January, I was doing all of this, but it wasn't really coming into fruition. Nothing was happening. And I was wondering why. So if we go to the next slide. So nothing happened. I got rejection letters, dead ends, and false hopes. So I needed to change something. Something was not working. And if we go to the next slide, I think one of the most important things which I did for myself was detaching myself from the outcome. Like, I used to be very obsessed and even disheartened sometimes when it wouldn't work out. I would go to the city, I would go to the office, and absolutely nothing would happen. I would talk to these people, just get shut down. But I realized that there's no point in stressing over the outcome. If it happens, when it happens, it will happen. But the important thing is to focus on the journey, because that's what you will remember. And if you talk to like a bunch of people who have achieved something very important in their lives, and they're very sort of passionate about what they do, they will often tell you that the outcome was the least exciting part of it. It was the journey that they went through. It was the pain, the hours of work that they put in. That was the interesting stuff. And this is a slide which is kind of showing what I was doing while I was applying. So I have the whole day to myself. What am I actually doing? I'm focusing on the journey. And this is a screenshot of a YouTube channel which I started. So we've got like a couple of machine learning videos. And again, back then I was sort of focusing on machine learning and deep learning and building full stack applications. I didn't even really touch generative AI at that point. So it was YouTube videos. I was building up my YouTube videos. I was writing articles online. I was building projects. So this is my GitHub, and this is a project which I built last year. So building projects and then posting them online. So this is the work that happens behind the scenes. And once you detach yourself from the outcome and you focus on the journey, focus on what you're doing, you realize that it's not so much about getting the outcome. It's more about what do you learn in the process and what can you build for yourself. This is a screenshot of a couple of some of the courses that I enrolled in. So we've got JavaScript, Kotlin, JavaScript, machine learning, some AWS certifications which I did quite recently. So this slide is purely to show what was happening behind the scenes. What was I doing? And when you focus on the journey, you realize that you're just improving your skills and coming to a point where you are happy with yourself. You are prepared, and like I said, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. This is the preparation that happens. So when the opportunity actually comes to you, you are prepared and you can make full use of that opportunity. So if we go to the next slide, this was another certification which I did. Go to the next one, the secret sauce. So there was obviously something had to change, and I think the biggest one was meeting people in person. So going to offices is great, but I think what really sort of skyrocketed my chances of actually securing a job, because at the end of the day, the job is what I'm working towards. It's people, meeting people, and particularly going to networking events. Now, I sort of was talking to Sam and Leonard earlier about this, but I don't like to call it networking events because you sort of feel like it's like a chore to do. So like when people say networking, it's like, oh, networking, I don't want to network. But I see it as more meeting people and just having fun, just chilling, having fun, chatting with people, getting to know them, getting to know their story, being interested in them, and honestly just having a good time. And I think that was the secret sauce. So I don't know what's on the next slide. If you can just go to the next slide. Yeah. Okay. So these were the things which I did. So these were things that actually worked. And so meeting people in the industry, I got this app called Meetup, and I showed it to Ara a couple of weeks ago. It's a great app. It's where I found all of these great networking events. I went to these networking events, and there was like, I'll share the success of it a bit later. But so meeting people in the industry is so important. Expanding your online presence, and this is something like these are the exact things which I say to anyone who is trying to get a job in the software engineering industry. Is expanding your online presence is so important, which is why I did YouTube videos, Medium articles, and the reasoning behind expanding your online presence is quite simple. You want to have a place to go to where other people can go to, which is not just yourself in person. So you need to have a digital footprint, and especially for me, like I'm coming out of high school, I don't have, obviously I did like have courses which I put the certifications on my LinkedIn, but other than that, how am I verifying to a potential employer that I actually have real skills? It's just to them, I'm just a 15-year-old kid or a 16-year-old kid. So how do I verify myself? And that's where expanding my online presence was so crucial and so important. Now recruiters can go to my YouTube, can go to my Medium, can go to my GitHub, they can see, oh, this guy actually has real skills. He knows what he's talking about, and he can actually deliver on whatever he's saying. It's not just fluff. So that's why I believe it's so important to have an online presence, to actually, have video content.
Well,
Hey.
sorry for being late.
No worries. Raj, nice to meet you.
Raza.
Raza, nice to meet you. Well, just
Yeah.
take a seat,
Yeah.
find a place, and sort of like in the middle of it.
Yeah.
But I think you'll still be able to get some value out of it. So I was talking about how these are the things that worked for me for getting a job. So I dropped out after year 10.
Yeah.
So I was 16 years old. And these are the things that worked for me, and these are the things that I did to sort of achieve that kind of result. So meeting people in the industry, very important. Expanding your online presence, very important, because you need a digital place where people can find you and people can verify that you actually have real skills. And learning how to sell yourself. This is like, I have that folder which I mentioned of all the resumes, all the cover letters which I built up over the couple of months. And when you write so many resumes, you sort of learn more about yourself because you're forced to communicate exactly what your skills are. You're forced to put it into words. And the more people I met, the more people I talked to, I found that I sort of fell into like a rhythm of how to communicate my story, how to communicate my skills. And I could probably tell you like the way I communicate myself today is vastly different than the way I communicated myself a couple of years ago, or even 1 year ago. Because now I've said it so many times that I now know my own story internally. And I think like it's something very, like you might say it's very unimportant, like how, like just talking about yourself. But I think it's such an important skill. Because when you talk about yourself, for me at least, at the beginning, it was like, oh, what do I say, where do I go, like what kind of, I have these skills, I met that person the other day, what do you talk about? So learning how to sell yourself and creating your own story, because people identify with stories, right? People identify with your passions, your hobbies, your interests, and learning how to sell yourself in a professional way, but also in kind of like a casual way. in a friendly way. That's very important. And doing all those resumes and CVs, meeting people over those months really sort of strengthened my ability to sell myself. And obviously, most importantly, this is, this trumps everything, and that's having real skills. People can, I can say, I did that. I can talk about some like really complex subject, make it sound like very smart, very intelligent. But I think it's very easy for people to see and for people to discern whether a person has real stuff behind them or not. It's very easy. I think like as humans, we have sort of adapted to understand, like from a survival point of view, if like you have to quickly discern who's going to help you or who's going to help you, who's not going to help you, right? So people are very good at discerning who has real skills or not. And at the end of the day, if you don't put in the hours of hard work to actually focusing on your craft, building the skills, building projects, and having real stuff behind you, then none of the other things that I said, none of them matter. Selling yourself, it's all well and good, but if you can't do the actual work and you don't have actual skills, none of it matters. So having real skills is obviously the most important part. We can go to the next one. So I did eventually achieve some success, and these are some photos I took. So this was the first job I did. Well, the first job I did actually was an unpaid internship, which I did for 1.5 months, from January last year to February. And I did it for 1.5 months. It was okay, and I did mostly like full stack development. Again, I haven't even gone into generative AI, which is sort of where I specialize in now. But that was mostly full stack development. It was for a company called AI Algorithm, so it's like a play on algorithm, AI algorithm. And that was a 1.5 month unpaid internship. And it was a good learning experience. It was good to get like something on my resume at least, just having that section on my resume. But after that, I got a job at a company called Time on Attention, a generative AI consultancy. And these two pictures are from the same company, Time on Attention. And this is where I sort of got my break into generative AI and building AI-powered applications. And I'll get more into like the domain and industry context a bit later at the end of the presentation. But the good news is that you eventually do find success. I eventually did get the job which I was looking for, and it was sort of perfect. Like I don't think I truly value how perfect this kind of opportunity was for me, because I wasn't into generative AI that much. I was more into like full stack development, machine learning, and deep learning. But going to this company in particular, which is this company, just for context, is a generative AI consultancy. So they build projects, usually full stack applications, with a focus on productionizing AI. So has everyone heard of like RAG chatbots, that sort of stuff? So that's sort of what they focus on, also like AI workflow applications. And going to that company was sort of like an eye-opener. It was like, oh, AI is here. I wasn't paying that much attention to generative AI. And it's like, oh, okay, I'm working on some pretty cool stuff. So this was the first company I worked for, and I actually recently moved on. Now I'm working at a company called Synergize, which is more focused on AI and just data and driving insights that way, which I started 2 weeks ago. So that was, so that was kind of my success in it. And I think like it's good to see that I actually found success. I actually got the job that I was looking for. But it's great and all, but I think the journey is still the most important part. Learning the skills, putting in the time, meeting people, that's what I value the most. It's like, sure, getting the job is well and good, but having real skills, that's the most important part. Having real skills, meeting people, putting yourself out there, that's what you actually remember. So that was the success I found. And if we go to the next slide. So that was the success I found, but like I was saying earlier, if there's one thing I want to communicate throughout this whole talk, it's, I could tell you, learn this technology, meet that person, do that thing. But the real question is, what are you willing to dedicate several hours per day of pure focused energy towards. And this is like, you can say, oh, I'm doing this, I'm doing that, I'm meeting that person, but people value real skills. And what I found is, if you have real skills, age is just a number. People don't care about age. As long as you have real skills and you can bring real value to someone's business, that's all they care about. And to do that, you have to put in, it's really simple. I know it's like, sort of cliche, like motivational kind of speech, but it's true. You have to put in hours and hours of work to actually have real skills and actually do something. So I'd like to ask everyone in this room to take some time for themselves. Find some time, really identify what's your passion. What are you willing to sacrifice time for? What are you willing to put in hours and hours of work to focusing on one single skill? And that's like, if there's one thing I could say to my 12-year-old self who's just learning to code, it would be spend even more time learning how to code. Spend even more time increasing your skills and mastering your domain. Because there is just so much to learn. You can go so deep into one single topic. It's like, I think the quote is, the more you know, the more you find out you don't know. So you can go so deep into a topic, and that's why I think it's so important to identify your passion early on, so you can go deep into that topic. You can learn everything, and at the end of the day, it's just putting in hours and hours of work. There's no saying any other way. It's just putting in hours and hours of work, and that's how you stand out from the rest of the crowd. So I wanted to talk about sort of why I think software engineering and coding in particular is such a good field, and I would say the best field to work in, and why now is the best time to work in that field. So if we go to the next, so I think we were talking about this earlier as well. Everyone can code now, right? So is it even worth it? You can use Lovable or vibe coding, as we call it, just to build sort of a simple web app. And you might ask, everyone can do it, right? What's the point? What's the worth in even learning or pursuing this field anymore if it's going to be replaced, or AI is going to do it anyways? And this is a sort of quote I found, and it's that the greater the supply of mediocrity, the higher the demand for excellence. So now that everyone can code, everyone can build sort of a simple web app, the bar is so much higher for good quality code. And I don't know if anyone here has actually used AI coding tools like Cursor, Lovable, and you'll see, if you actually look at the code that it's generating, it's good quality, but it's also very easy for it to generate AI slop, as it's called, bad quality code. And I think now that everyone can build, even non-technical people, they can build web apps. But what happens when something goes wrong? Someone technical has to go in and actually solve the issue, solve the problem. And coding and building, that's sort of that is definitely a skill of a software engineer. And I used to think that all software engineers do is they just sit at the keyboard, code all day, type keys into the keyboard. And that is so much further from the truth, because anyone can do that. The real skill of a software engineer is solving problems. And I found that out as I started working in the corporate environment. Coding and implementing code in the right syntax or the right, using the right language, that is relatively easy. But solving the problem, that's where the actual thinking power comes. It's solving the problem. It's looking at the requirements of the project, the trade-offs between different approaches, and actually solving the problem in an efficient, cost-effective way. That is the actual role of a software engineer. And I don't think AI agents are going to be replacing that anytime soon, because that comes with business context. That comes with understanding people, understanding the relationships, understanding what is important to your client. That is honestly like even more important than actually building code and actually building a solution, because it's easy to build a product, but are you building the right thing? And that's where I think the role of a software engineer actually lies, is in solving problems and building something useful. Coding is just a means to an end. So if we go to the next slide, so this is sort of like a comparison of, and I like to use this comparison between AI and the internet. So the internet, obviously a global, revolutionary technology. And what are some of the things that the internet brought for us? It gave us a global marketplace. Things like Amazon, eBay, Shopify, all stores are now globally available to everyone throughout the world. It gave us personalization. So now, if you think about before internet, everyone got the same content, right? Everyone got the same newspaper. They had to read the same kind of content. It wasn't personalized in any way. But now we've got personalization. Everyone sees exactly what they want to see. They see the reels they want to see. They see the YouTube videos they want to see. Kind of recommendations. And it's actually quite crazy. I didn't know this a couple of months ago, but did you know, like, when you see, for example, a reel, and you look at the comment section is also personalized to you. It's like you see different comments. If we open up the same reel, we see different comments. And it's because like it knows sort of what we're interested in, and it's going to suggest comments to you which you will agree with. Because like if you look at a political post, you're more likely to see comments which agree with your point of view, because the algorithm, the engine knows kind of what you are interested in, what you agree with. So it's going to show you comments, and that just drives engagement even more, because you're more likely to engage with those kind of comments. You're more likely to agree with them. That's not something I didn't know. The point is, it's becoming hyper-personalized. Everyone is seeing exactly what they want to see, which is driving engagement on these apps. And the third one is connectivity. So, social media platforms, WhatsApp, Instagram, Facebook, all these platforms, internet has brought us the ability to talk to our grandparents who are on the other side of the world. And these are just three things which the internet has brought us. There are obviously a lot more. But the question is, what is AI going to do? And I think what AI is going to do is, firstly, it's going to amplify everything that we see here. Whatever the internet has brought to us, AI is simply going to amplify that. So if you look at the global marketplace, what does AI in the global marketplace look like? It could mean AI agents doing your shopping for you automatically. Personalization. I was actually talking to someone and they gave me this idea. It's like, how everyone goes to the cinemas to watch a movie, right? And everyone's watching the same movie. What if you could put like a pair of glasses on you, and it shows you the movie in a different way that is personalized to you? So everyone sees the movie personalized to them in a particular way. And like, I know that sort of sounds kind of weird and dystopian in a way, but in 10 years, I don't think that it would be surprising if that actually occurred. So the question is, with AI, what opportunities are there? And so there's also in connectivity. So I'm not sure if everyone saw the new the Meta Connect event recently, and it's like the new Ray-Ban Meta glasses. You got the glasses and you got a display now. It's like super like high tech, super sophisticated. And like the point I'm trying to make is, what is the opportunity which AI gives to us? And we've got like 3 industries. There's obviously so much more. AI is going to be affecting all the different industries and all the different domains. Think agriculture, retail, finance. AI is going to be touching all of these things. And the reason why I'm mentioning this whole thing is to show you that there's going to be so much demand for people building in AI over the next couple of years. Because if you think about it, who was the most valued person when the internet was coming along? who was the most valued person? People who could build on the internet. They were the most valued and they would pay top dollar for people who could build on the internet. The AI is like, it's an even more fundamental shift than the internet. Obviously it's built on top of the internet, but it's even more like fundamental. And people have been talking about AI ever since, I don't even know when the first sort of artificial intelligence idea was conceived, but people have been talking about this for so long, and now it's here. Who is going to be the people who actually build out these solutions, build out these AI? And it's across so many industries, so many domains. And that's why I think that becoming a software engineer, software developer, and specifically building in AI is going to be A, lucrative, but B, it's going to be very fulfilling. Because there's just so much you can impact. There's like so much open space. And I was talking to Arav when we met a couple of days ago, and we were talking about like the use cases around AI. And we came to the sort of conclusion that yes, there are use cases, like there's RAG chatbots, which you can build. And I'm talking about more of like a business context. There's, there's obviously like robotics. But I think the use cases for AI are still yet to be defined. There is so much open space for creating applications, for building new technology. There's the whole robotics paradigm as well. People like Tesla robots, Boston Dynamics, all these companies are building these robots. And who is going to be the people who are building, the applications of these robots? What does that look like in the future? And the answer is it's going to be people who have engineering knowledge, but also AI knowledge, AI domain knowledge. And there's just so much opportunity for exploration and honestly, like just making money. Like there's so much opportunity. There's so many industries that can be affected. So that's sort of my persuasion in a way on why I think AI software engineering is still going to be so relevant. And I guess just to sort of wrap up, so building in AI, becoming an engineer who is building AI is definitely something lucrative and something which I recommend. But how do you actually get to a point where you're building in the real world, meeting real clients, working on real problems? And I think in summary, what I would say is to first detach yourself from the outcome. Don't worry so much about getting the desired outcome, and focus more on the journey. Focus on the journey. Build real skills. Build your online presence. And have fun while doing it, honestly. Like, make a YouTube channel, upload videos, talk about anything, talk about something. Building your online presence is so valuable because you have a platform which speaks for you. You don't need to be everywhere to speak for yourself. People can go to you, find you online. So detaching yourself from the outcome is very key. And secondly, identify your goal, passion, and commit to the journey. I can't understate this, I can't overstate this anymore. It's having real skills. So I would invite everyone to take some time, identify what they are willing to spend hours and hours of time learning and dedicating their hours to, and fully commit to it. Fully commit to it, learn real skills, have a plan, have a goal, and just work towards it. Mastering your craft 1% better every day, it's sort of just the same thing. It doesn't have to be, you don't have to make big leaps, big steps. You just have to improve 1%. Just, learn something new. Watch a video about a technology you're learning about. Just incremental steps, and they compound over time. Building your online presence and meeting people. This is sort of like the secret sauce, and that is having a verifiable online presence, which speaks for yourself, and meeting people. Sorry, my throat is so dry. That's my Red Bull.
There you go.
Building your online presence and meeting people. So, meeting people is just like honestly just getting to know people's stories and meeting people in the industry, because I think the archetype for software engineers is that we're like sort of like closed in our mom's basement just coding away. But in reality that doesn't work, right? You have to go outside, you have to meet people, and you have to engage. And that's what sort of like broke me into the industry as well, meeting people. And I don't think I mentioned this, but all of the 3 jobs which I got, the unpaid internship which I did, the gig which I did at Taiwan Attention, and my current job at Synergize, all of them 100% through meeting people, not through online applications, just meeting the right people. And when I say meeting the right people, I mean meeting people but being prepared for that opportunity as well. So, I've probably talked to a lot of people over the past months who could have landed me somewhere else, or who could have just put me in a much better position. But maybe I wasn't ready for that. Maybe I didn't say the right things to put them in the light of, okay, you might be perfect for this. But the opportunities which I was prepared for, those sort of led to my success. And all the 3 jobs that I got have been purely through referrals, meeting people, and this is also like a point for building an online presence, because when you meet people, I've had people who have come up to me not because they have seen my YouTube video. I did a hackathon about a year ago, and when I was going to the event for the hackathon, and that event was sort of building the teams for the hackathon, I met a guy who was also going to the same hackathon, and he recognized me because he actually saw a video I did on a GitHub project. So I did a GitHub project, I made 2 videos on that, and I uploaded it. And he actually saw that video, and he recognized me from that video. And we formed a team for the hackathon, and we actually won that hackathon as well. So the whole point of saying that is building your online presence is so crucial, because you have to place a verifiable digital footprint, and meeting people is the way to go. Be curious. Explore technologies, don't limit yourself. This is sort of going back to not pigeonholing yourself into one specific industry right away. I think it's so important to sort of just explore, be curious, do web development one day, try out training your own machine learning model the next day, build sort of like mobile app the next day. Just explore a lot, and don't think, oh, I've only got these skill sets now, I'll only do this thing. Sure, do that thing, but then do something else. Throw yourself into the deep end the next day, and don't do things which are solely comfortable for yourself. Do things which are outside your comfort zone, and throw yourself into that environment, and have fun. I feel like it's very easy to get caught up in the grind and the hustle of it, and just striving for that internship and striving for that job. But it's honestly a very fun time to be living right now. And the types of applications we can build, it's sort of like you can build anything, especially with AI. It makes it, firstly, easier to build, and secondly, the types of things you can build is just so fascinating. You can build, like one of the projects which I did a year ago was a model which identifies brain tumors in MRI scans, and that project was so fun to build because I got to train my own model, and I made a couple of videos on it, and I just had some fun building it, honestly. And that led to me having the right conversations, and it was a very good project to showcase on my resume. So I think for some industries it's very it can get very boring and repetitive. But I think software engineering is it's a creative industry. And I don't think people often see software engineering as creative. They see it as more like manual, sort of like technical IT sort of stuff. But I think software engineering is actually a creative field. And it's more akin to art than I would say business. Because you can, a software engineer is not just about writing code, it's about solving problems. And you can do that in a very creative way as well. And I think that is it. So that was my talk.